Funny thing is, when we talk about Simon Basset and Bridgerton season 1, the focus is often on his tempestuous relationship with his father and how the former Duke of Hastings' abuse is what served as the crux to why Simon made the vow to never have children, which is the bone of contention in his marriage to Daphne when she discovers the truth. His relationship with his father is at the heart of the core conflict of the season and is only resolved in the very last episode with Daphne telling him that he is nothing like his father. However, we rarely talk about Simon's mother, the late Duchess of Hastings, and how her absence might have also played a crucial role in the type of man her son grew up to be and the influence that had on his relationship with Daphne. And I would like to talk about that today. Now, just in case the person who came into my comments the last time I made a video about Edwina is watching, yes, I know season 1 was 5 years ago. I don't care. I got a brain fart with a video idea on Simon Basset, and so I am making this video. Why? Because I can, and also because characters fascinate me. Especially someone like Simon Basset, who fits the archetype of the rake with the daddy issues. And that is actually how a lot of us, myself included, have thought of him in the years since Bridgerton season 1 dropped. It's the box that we slotted him into, and even though a majority of us all agree that certain events and actions in that particular season didn't age well, hence why season 1 doesn't have quite the same amount of rewatch value as the other seasons, I do occasionally go back to it because regardless of the messiness of this show, I really do enjoy all of the Bridgerton couples, Saphne inclusive. And it is in these recent rewatches that it started to dawn on me that a lot of the time when we think of Simon, we don't really consider his mother in the equation. Now, before you say it, I know. The late Duchess passed on in childbirth. We never really got the chance to see her or know her, except for that one scene that cemented for all of us just how big of a dick the former Duke of Hastings was. And as such, we don't really know much about her. She seemingly doesn't have that much impact on the story. Or does she? Because it's, for me, the in-between that gets me really thinking. And that goes for Simon's mother, because to me, her absence has one of the biggest impact on Simon's life. Now, what we do know about the Duchess of Hastings is down to 2 women. The first is Agatha Danbury and her love for her friend. The fact that whilst her friend was bleeding to death and her friend's jackass of a husband was only focused on the fact that he had finally gotten himself a son and heir, Agatha was there beside her, holding her hands as she bled to death with post-labor complications, trying to get her best friend to survive. And that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because in that scene, the brief glimpse we saw of the late Duchess was of someone who was proud that she had finally fulfilled her duty and given her husband the heir he had so desperately wanted. To the point that she had no concerns or cares or worries about the fact that she was dying. Instead, she was pleased and proud that she was finally able to bear him an heir. Her only heartbreak in that scene was the fact that she wasn't even given the chance to hold Simon for a moment after he was born. Instead, the midwives handed Simon over to his father immediately, whilst the Duchess was comforted in the knowledge that she had done what she wanted to do and passed on, whilst Agatha Danbury watched. Every time I rewatch that scene, my heart breaks for her. For Simon's mother and the fact that that is all her life had dwindled to. That was all she existed for, to bear her son that would carry the family's name and legacy. And we know that that is something that had weighed on her, her inability to do so beforehand, because the second woman through which we learn more about the late Duchess is Mrs. Coulson, housekeeper for the Hastings country estate, Clivedon Castle. When Daphne meets Mrs. Coulson, the latter is very cold towards her as she believes that Daphne is nothing like the sedate former Duchess and finds her new mistress very much wanting in the grand scheme of things, even if she doesn't openly say so. However, after Daphne asks her questions about Simon's mother, Mrs. Coulson gives us a view into a woman who was so burdened at the fact that she wasn't able to conceive a child and fulfill her duties. And so that was something that she kept trying to rectify until she finally got pregnant with Simon, but unfortunately died immediately after giving birth to him. I think that a lot of the times when we consider Simon's vow to his father, it is driven, of course, by the former Duke's disregard for Simon because of his selective mutism, which his father believed made him unworthy of being his heir in some way. But I also wonder if a part of that is not because of his mother as well. Part of the blame for Simon's mother passing does lie within the time period, of course, and the fact that medical practices were not as advanced back in the Regency era, but at the same time, there was a casual disregard for the late Duchess's life when the complications arose. It is clear that what was prioritized was Simon's birth and not his mother's life. And I do find it something worth considering, a question to ponder over if Simon didn't have that thought, that his mother was sacrificed because having an heir was deemed as the most important thing to further the Basset line, which would then mean that making the decision to not have children is yet another slap in his father's face and a vindication of sort for his mother. Whether it is Simon's disability or his mother's life, all of it was treated as an inconvenience by the former Duke of Hastings, as all that mattered was to keep the Basset name going. Like, I know neither the show nor the book have given us any sort of insight into Simon's thoughts and feelings on his mother, who he never got to know, but I doubt that he never considered her or had any thought about her. Like, sure, we can say that after Lady Danbury showed up and took him in to care for him when his father abandoned him, she ended up stepping in and raising him as her own child in honor of her late friend. She was his pseudo-mother in that regard. But what about before Lady Danbury showed up? What about the months in between when he was left alone, forgotten by everyone else, neglected because his father refuses to acknowledge a son with flaws? I doubt that Simon didn't have the thought, didn't wonder if maybe if his mother had been alive, she might have spoken up for him, protected him, or found a way to bring him back home. I mean, child Simon at that point had no knowledge or idea that Lady Danbury would show up and bring him to her home. What he would instead most likely think is that if his mother were alive, then she would have been able to save and care for him. And the reason why his mother can't do that still boils down to his father and his neglect and his misplaced priorities on the Basset name. We can say that part of the reason why Simon does avoid trying to get attached to others is partly because of him wanting to punish his father, but it could also be because of the fact that he has no frame of reference with regards what a relationship between two people who respect, lean on, and love each other would look like. And that's not just because he never got the chance to know his mother, but also because the two people who would be able to give him clues on what his mother's relationship with his father was like are, in the case of Lady Danbury, most likely going to be very scathing. And in the case of Mrs. Coulson, would, like she did with Daphne, focus a lot on the Duchess's desire and despair and desperation to bear an heir. In which case, neither of them would be compelling to Simon. And one would even say might further push him down the thought of doing everything he can to ensure that the Basset line ends with him for good, as a punishment for a father who does not care about anything else and who he probably holds responsible for his mother's death as well. Because I think it says a lot that of the three women that we get to see give birth in the show, Violet and Charlotte had people in their corner who were advocating for their survival. Like, sure, I know that Anthony was going through it and dealing with the loss of his father and how everything was suddenly pushed onto him, including the very important question of whose life should be prioritized. But even in that moment, he had them prioritize Violet's wishes and her survival. And of course, with Charlotte, George was right there to ensure that the doctors made saving his wife their number one priority. Simon's mother did not have that. It is implied that the Duke's express order was to prioritize his son, which is what happened in that case. And I don't know about you, but something tells me that should Simon have asked, Lady Danbury would have had no reason to keep that particular truth away from him. Because from her interactions with the Duke when she brings Simon over to see his father, we can tell that she still disdains the former Duke. She has no reason to hide or lie to cover up for him. Of course, this is all conjecture, but I've just been sitting with the thought that what if Simon's aversion to having children also has a small bit to do with his mother? The story has him very quiet about her, but then we get bits of sadness. For example, when Daphne identifies the feeling behind the painting his mother had loved, that just makes me think of a character who wishes that this mother of his, that this girl is falling for, is falling in love with, seems to understand on an artistic level, was someone that he wished he could get the chance, if ever provided him, to connect with. And that then led to imagine his anger and rage when he remembers that her loss is something that is still tied to his jackass father and the insistence he has on continuing the Basset line. And from that, the idea for this video was born. I apologize if it's a bit rambling. It's all theoretical and not really connected to what we got to see in the show, but it's my own little headcanon for a woman whose presence was so utterly silent in the show and in the lives of her son and his bride that I just felt compelled to talk about it, to wonder if it's in any way a possibility, a factor in Simon's decision. I would, of course, love to hear your thoughts about that. Do you agree or disagree with the potential or possibility of that? That the loss of his mother might have also contributed to Simon's declaration and punishment of his father? Do you think there is absolutely no probable chance for it? Please let me know in the comments. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. If you can't, however, do consider checking out my other channels. One of them is my gaming channel where I put up my playthrough videos, and the other is my ASMR channel for those who find my voice soothing and love hearing about myth and folktales. I have the link to all my channels in the description bar if you're interested. Whichever the case may be, I will see you tomorrow with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.